Hey everybody, welcome to my first how to use Stable Diffusion for Artists video. This video is aimed at people who may be traditional artists, for people who may be aspiring artists, or really just for anyone with a basic understanding of image editing tools. The image editing in this video is going to be very simple, super easy. I even went out of my way to find an image editing tool that didn't have any embedded AI. I'm going to be using Fireworks CS6. First thing I'm going to do is show you how to clean up your existing work with Stable Diffusion. And then I'm going to do some in-painting, where I show you how to add glasses to the Mona Lisa and change out her background in the Da Vinci painting. So that's going to be fun. I hope you stick around for the whole thing. One thing before we get started that I absolutely have to mention. This is not a forum for a discussion on AI ethics. I want no intimidation. I want no threats. I want nobody going in and telling fucking artists that they're going to be obsolete or unnecessary. I need peaceful, normal comments by sane people if you need to leave a comment at all. If you don't leave a comment, that's fine too. But I'm moderating everything. I don't want to hard ban anyone from this channel, but if you can't stick to the rules on this, I will. All I want to do is give artists more tools and superpowers. And if you stick around, that's what you'll get. So without further ado, we're going to switch to screen capture, because running my VTuber, Stable Diffusion, and screen capture at the same time is way too much for my little toaster of a computer. It's so sad. Anyway, I love you babies, and I'll see you on the other side. Mwah. You know, there's a long history, I think, in artistic tradition of telling stories with art. You know, it's like the old cliche, a picture tells 1,000 words. And when you're using this kind of technology, you really feel that. It's intense. And it's just amazing. So here's what I'm going to do. The default location of Stable Diffusion is on your local host. Mine is set to the default, which is at port 7860. So that is 127.0.0.1. And if you ever have trouble remembering that, just remember, there's no place like 127.0.0.1. Tech joke. Okay, so now we're looking at Stable Diffusion. We also have Stable Diffusion at the command line, which we will be again using later. First things first, we need to come up with a dog symbol photographic background, and what I'm going to enter is any old city. It doesn't matter. I'm going to enter a wide shot of an American city, and that should give me some options. I'm going to set these low for just a minute, because that will mean that they render faster. It also means less detail in your render, so keep that in mind. We'll move them back up in a minute. All right, so now that we have these, and considering that we want to use them as a background, and really not anything set in stone, but really more of sort of a backdrop to an image that I already made that we're going to use as a starting point. I think our best bet is probably this dark one. Now, the thing that you have to remember is that the background will change. What we're looking for in this image is something that is a plausible environment for whatever character we're putting it in, as well as having the right color scheme and maybe even the right levels of noise. So now the very next thing we are going to do is open up Fireworks CS6. I'm using this one because it does not have any built-in AIs. All of its output is very raw, very primitive. It gives us tight control over things like noise and dithering that we would not get from modern tools. So that is why I'm using an older tool. We already have an AI program that is going to do all of the heavy lifting and then some for us. And we don't need anything more. You can use any image editor you want. That is not important. You know, I used to have a manager who would say things like, you know, you will pull my copy of Fireworks CS6 from my cold dead hands. And you know what? I kind of agree with him. It's a great program. Anyway, so I have this render that I made with CC4. This is the Lin 149S model. She's adorable, I know. And what we are going to do is first I'm going to run a human segmentation filter on her, and then I'm going to drop her on top of that backdrop. So one thing that's cool about nearly all big tech companies is that they give you a lot of fun tech toys and code resources that are always free to use and play with. And Tencent is among them. In this case, we get to use their ARC human matte filter, which is amazing. I've included a link to that in the description. And what I'm going to do here is take the 3D model, the render of the 3D model that I just showed you, and I'm going to remove the boring dull gray background. This takes a minute. There we go. See that? And now we have totally removed the background. Download that. And now we go back to Fireworks. I'm going to take this image and I'm going to go over here. And actually this time, what I'm going to do is magnify out, scale down, and that's going to give us our nice 3D model on our cityscaped background. Now you might ask, why is this so small? And that's because it takes up way less memory in the GPU, and we have the ability to upsize without losing any detail later. I'm going to walk through that too. We're going to be doing two pieces here. So, all right. So here we go. This is our thing. We are going to save and export it now. And then we're going to go back to Stable Diffusion. Cool. First, we're going to use regular old Img2Img. And we're going to drop them in. By the way, now I know a lot of people talk about how prompts, like the first one we just did, are what everybody expects to see out of these programs. However, I can't stress this enough. Img2Img and image inpainting are the most common use cases for artists. So this is what we're doing. This is what we're focusing on for the rest of the video. Well, that and upscaling. Upscaling is a godsend. You've been asking for it for 30 years. It's here. We're gonna talk about that too. So here we are. We have our girl, but we still have some issues that came from using the older version of the human segmentation filter. Her hair doesn't quite look right. You can tell that she's superimposed on this background. And maybe, you know what, I want to change the art style. So I think I want this to be, say, a watercolor painting. Well, we can do that. That is totally achievable. But one thing we are going to have to do is get the height and width to match first. Now, early on in this process, 488 by 488 is actually a really good size. It'll give you a level of detail that's workable, and it'll also give you enough texture so that you can sort of see what happens when the whole thing gets upscaled or when you draw on a bigger canvas. So first, let's start with a prompt. This is going to be whatever we're looking at in the picture. A good place to start for prompting is by interrogating the clip. Press that button. and the AI is going to go through and try to understand it for you. It also might error out. We're going to find out. All right, so what we get is actually relatively workable here. We get a woman with a black shirt and a black choker. Now, this first line is our positive prompt, and the second line is our negative prompt. The positive prompt is what we're telling the machine to create, and the positive prompt, or in the negative prompt rather, is explicitly what we're telling the machine not to create. In a positive prompt, you would say, you'd probably use a different format than the interrogator give us. So you would probably start off with photo. Oh, no, we wanted a watercolor. Watercolor painting of a beautiful woman. Symmetrical features. I can never spell symmetrical, but we will get that. Green eyes. Thick eyeliner. Full lips. Choker. Black t-shirt. My inability to spell is being put on display. Oh no. Oh, you should see my Twitter feed. It's awful. So now we have that. And down here, you've got two, these are your most important levers in the entire system. This is your CFG scale, and this is your image denoising strength. So I think of these as a little differently, because these things, they mean nothing. Even the descriptions that they give you explaining what these things do are not helpful. So let me break it down for you. So on one side of the CFG scale, you've got conformity to your image. And on the other side of your scale, you've got conformity to the prompt. When you're doing an image to image, you're going to move these things, this lever up and down constantly. But even there, the denoising strength completely changes your image. I've got it defaulting to 0.75, which is actually really high, and it's enough to totally transform your art. Seeds are really cool. They're these random numbers that correspond to addresses in the computer's brain, where the different pieces of the image are stored. You got to remember, with AIs, there are no images stored in AIs. What does get stored is brush strokes, line work, things like color tones. Like, for example, if you had Stable Diffusion open and you said, recreated a Garfield cartoon by Jim Davis, good luck. Don't believe me? Try it. Or type in the Mona Lisa with no other description. There is no one-to-one copying with this particular type of AI. It's just not how it works. I'm sorry if you had plans for a career of art forgery, and if so, I wish you the best, but this is not the tool for that. But we'll get to the rest of this later. So, we've got our image that we've created, and we want a nice, happy watercolor painting. So what I'm going to do is click on Generate with no negative prompt, and we're going to see what happens. All right, so these are the pretty pictures we just came out with. The system is set to push out 4 of them, and they look great, but I think they are taking, I think the computer's taking just a touch too much liberty with my creation. It's also not quite getting every detail that I want it to. So what I'm going to do here is mess with my settings, and I'll walk you through how to do that. Back down to our CFG and our denoising strength. We are going to dramatically reduce our denoising to 0.31, which at this point my gut is telling me is going to give us some loose cleanup of the original. Let's see what it does. This is actually a lot better. I really think a couple of these are cute. Let's look through them. So we did that, and we did that, we did that, and we did that. They look amazing. This is a huge improvement. But one thing that you will notice with all of these pictures is that, look, let's just be honest, they're a little muddy. So what we're going to do is turn up our, first thing we're going to do is set the seed. And then we're going to turn up our sampling steps to 30 or 35 rather. Then I'm going to close that sub window. And then I'm going to click on generate again, which should give us something that's hopefully a little sharper. I'm looking at these, and they're cute and everything. These really look nice, actually. But the problem I'm having is that, you know, I just don't like the coloring. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look up a camera on Google. And I like the Canon cameras. We want something very high-end. As far as I'm concerned, this is high-end enough. So what this one is a Canon EOS Rebel T7. It's a 55mm, which means it won't shrink your nose. And we're going to change this rendering from a watercolor to a photograph. And I'm going to add a very powerful keyword, which you should only use sparingly at the end, which should theoretically give it the lowest priority in the query. And that word is cute. Be very, very careful when you call something cute. And go. This really looks good, but I think the problem here is the comment pattern. Now, the algorithms that work with the system are all listed, and you can switch these out for different results. The default one is Euler A, which is pretty good. It's good on things that are simple. It's good on watercolors. It's good for paintings, but just regular old DPM2 by itself can be better. DPM2 will take your same seed, but render a completely different effect. Now, I changed it to DPM2, but we also need to change our prompt to detailed skin and cinematic lighting. Intricate face. And the reason why we want to put these at the beginning is because the system will take priority from whatever is at the beginning of the post. So when you make a prompt, the beginning of your prompt needs to be what that thing is. So it's a photograph taken with a camera, or your subject rather is your beautiful woman, and we don't have any, and our object is some of the other details here. Like the heart necklace and whatever. So there we go. We have our subject, our object, and our style pointers. I'm hoping that this gives us a little bit of a better photographic render with DPM2. But if it doesn't, I will show you how to fix that. So here we go. And there we go. Final renders. These are still pretty good, but I think the problem that we're seeing is that we're getting better lips now for sure. But let's see what I put in here for the prompt. So I've changed our prompt a little bit. But the other thing that we can do here is we're going to leave our CFG scale alone and leave it set on vision. But we're going to take our noise, or our denoising rather, and turn it up 5 steps. That's at 37. We should be at something that looks more or less like the thing we created all the way through about halfway on the 0.4s. So at 0.37, we should still be within the realm of this original piece of artwork. Perfect. I'm going to go a couple more rounds on this. Now what we're going to do is turn it up to 576. And try again. That should clarify some of the details and do things like make the eyes a little less muddy. Alrighty, so now we have our images. They look good. They're still not burned, which means our GPU is not overheating. They're a little less muddy than they were. This is good. This is good enough to throw in the upscaler later. So we're going to call that okay for now. But the thing that's getting me is the skin still isn't right. And the reason for that, of course, is because our CFG scale at 3.5 is still set heavily to vision over prompt. So what we're going to do is just move that so it's about even, if we can, with our denoising strength. And that should give us something a little sharper, I think. Oh, and speaking of sharp, these things have internal sampling rates. I know it sounds silly, but you can actually add things like 4K, and it'll know what you mean. Unless it burns it, in which case I'll edit that out of the video completely so I don't look like an idiot. It generally works though, so let's try that and see what happens. And there we go. Now let's take this to the upscaler, which I'm going to show you how to use, and see what happens. The one I think comes the closest to what I'm trying to accomplish is number 2. I like that one the best. We're going to use that one for now. So we click on number 2, and then we click on send to extras. And here we go. Now, if you've ever seen like Star Trek or CSI, and they've got a tiny little image on the screen, and somebody in the background says, "Enhance, enhance." Well, up until recently, that's been completely impossible. But now we have it, and it is an indispensable tool. Okay, so if you want realism, and we want to scale it up a lot, ESR GAN is an adversarial network that works really well. Upscaler 2 and GPG, GFP GAN, work with ESR GAN in concert. As far as I can tell, none of the other ones honor your Upscaler 2 or GFP GAN settings. So, for starters, let's just size it up to 4. Select ESR GAN 4X. We're going to leave our second upscaler out for now. And we are going to just click the generate button with our settings as they are now and see what happens. Now, you may not realize it here, but something beautiful and magical and impossible just happened. And I'm going to show you what that is. This tiny image we created is now a full-size painting. Let that sink in. I mean, seriously, understand what you're looking at here. This is magical. And you can do this upsizing thing, on any image in your library. I like this a lot, and I think this is the final piece I'm going to use. So I'm going to save it. And that is the end of this exercise. All right, so for this next exercise, what we're going to do is actually take the Mona Lisa and, I don't know, maybe make her more interesting. So we've got our Img2Img here, and what we actually want to do is in paint. So what I want to do for starters is, first I make sure that the height and width are correct. I want this to be a good size render, so I'm going to set it to 832 by 188 because I want things to come out clearly, and I'm just going to start by, I don't know, giving her a pair of sunglasses. And I'm going to type in sunglasses. You with me? Excellent. So let's see what happens. Takes a minute to render at this size, so I'm probably going to forward through until my machine runs out of memory anyway. We should be okay. So sometimes when you try to render something and it's too big, it will outstrip your graphics card of memory. And when that happens, you'll see this cryptic CUDA out of memory tried to allocate however many megabytes, and our GPU is having none of it. So here's what you do. Remember that thing we just talked about with upscaling? That is a thing, and that is a valid thing. So we're going to take our height on this one and change our relative size to 384 by 576, which we should be able to handle. Also, remember, you may think that instinctively as an artist that feeding this thing high resolution images is a good idea, and I would say it is. If you have a graphics card like a 4090 or a 3080 or any of the big NVIDIA or AMD cards, if not, it's going to cause the same error. So let's try one more time, shall we? And we're going. Now this time it should actually sort of draw it on the screen as we go. These are workable, but they're not perfect, so let's see what we got. We got this one. Meh. That's a little better. That's not bad. I like number 3. So we're going to take number 3 and... Was it number 3? No, it wasn't. It was number 4. So we're going to take number 4 and throw her into there. Maybe now, let's save it first and do a little work on the background. So, actually, no. Better yet, here. Let us we're going to turn it up to 0.4. And now I'm going to say Cyborg Mona Lisa with sunglasses in Cyberpunk City. Because, very seriously, we're probably going to post this on Twitter, and you know what the standards for decency are there. Oh, yeah, speaking of, we also need large breasts, because if we do post to Twitter, and we're doing AI art, or any kind of art for that matter, she needs the boob out. So let's do that and make it so number 1. Now there's a classy act. Alright. But, this is good, but it's all way too close to the original painting. So we're going to leave it on Vision, but we are going to up our denoiser, which is going to let the computer be just a touch more creative. So let's see what happens. I have a feeling this is going to get cool. All right, so here we are. We are looking at different possibilities. This is my favorite, I think. That 4th one. Let's evolve that just a little bit, and we're going to do that by dragging the image into the reader, and then we are going to run the same prompt again. These are good, but not what I want. Maybe it's time to go into our human segmentation filter again. Open it up. And just pull her out. Meanwhile, we will open up the same image in Fireworks and give ourselves some layers. Gonna download that. It survived as a PNG that time, so it's good. Beautiful. All right. Just a little bit of clarity. And now we're going to take the original and add some noise. When you add noise, the system can't really read it the same way, so it relies a little more heavily on what you tell it, which in this case is exactly what we want. So pull that in and make it so. All right, now we're going to adjust our prompt. Tall buildings, signs, street scene. And now we turn up the noise again, or the denoise. Whatever, the distance. She's going the distance. All right, here we go. So now I've got a public domain image from Pixabay. We're going to import it. I like this one because it has a nice city scene and the sky in it. And I am curious how it might integrate. So let's do that. There, that's a lot better. Now we save that. Now we go back here. And engage. I think this one's my favorite. And hey, look, she's got all her fingers. It's a good day. It's a good day. All right. So we take that one and we evolve it. And what I'm going to do now is move both parts of the canvas up one move and see what happens. This is fun, isn't it? I think this is my favorite. I think this is our final product. I'm going to save it. And now we're going to go back to the upscaler. And now we're going to do the ESR GAN on 708 and the GPG GAN at 0.246. I'm going to take it up 4 times and click generate. And there we go, my friends. That is Cyberpunk Mona Lisa. And I think that exercise is done. Well, that was fun. I feel like we covered the basics. And if you've gotten this far, thank you. Leave a comment. You're amazing. And this is why I love you so much. It's true. Actually, no. I only love you because you're beautiful and awesome and probably super talented. Have you thought about maybe checking out that one or that one as far as the videos that are on screen right now? Because they are cool too. This one is going to be my Stable Diffusion Quick Draw on that side. And on the other side, you've got whatever the computer thinks is relevant. So check them out. Anyway, I'll see you next time. Stay beautiful.